Hello, fantasy football fans. This is fantasyendzone.com. Let me start by saying if you're not dominating your fantasy football league, it's obvious you need to get into the end zone. fantasyendzone.com. Today, I want to make an early prediction on some running backs that should go early in this year's draft. Running backs are always in high demand when it comes to fantasy football. Some running backs are a sure thing, while others are a gamble. I made a list of 5 that should be hits unless they suffer some injuries. They are as follows. The first running back selected, and probably the first pick overall, should be Chris Johnson. Can you believe that he went 3rd overall last year in our draft? All he did was lead the league in rushing with 2,006 yards. He became the first player with 500 yards receiving and 2,000 yards rushing. He averaged 5.6 yards per carry and 125.4 yards per game. He's a great receiver out of the backfield. By the way, this was his 2nd year. He's an unbelievable talent. The offensive line in front of him is outstanding. I wouldn't look for him to repeat these kind of numbers this season, but I would definitely say you can pencil him in for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. Alright, the second running back that will probably be selected would be Maurice Jones-Drew. Solid running back. He went 2nd overall in our draft. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry with 1,391 yards for the season and 15 touchdowns. Simply amazing. He is talented. He plays on a mediocre team. The Jags have no really legitimate other weapon besides him. They can take down the pressure away from him. However, he still gets his yards. He is a lone weapon on the team. Opposing teams are geared towards stopping him, but he amazingly still gets his yards. He does a good job of catching the ball out of the backfield. This guy is just a few steps behind Chris Johnson. He's a very, very talented back. He could be a good pick for you at 2nd. The 3rd pick would have to be Adrian Peterson. He was the first pick in 2009 in most drafts. He averaged 4.4 yards per carry. He averaged 86.4 yards per game last year with 1,383 yards and 18 touchdowns. Those are numbers that are worthy of the first round pick, of the first overall pick, excuse me. However, with his surrounding cast, you would have expected more rushing yards. He had Brett Favre, Sidney Rice, Percy Harvin, and some breakout play of the tight end position, so that really took the pressure off of him. That's a really good supporting cast. He's still a top 3 pick, but Chris Johnson has taken the top spot away from him. Okay, number 4, we have Ray Rice. He's a bruiser of a running back. He is old school. He is old style like Earl Campbell. He'll simply run over you to keep from going around you. He averaged 5.3 yards per carry with 1,339 yards for the season, scored 7 touchdowns. He averaged 83.7 yards per game. He could be an up-and-coming back to keep your eyes on. This guy has potential. He could end up being a steal. The Ravens have a good offensive line around him. They have a young quarterback in Joe Flacco that can take the pressure off of him. What I like most is that he plays on a team that really focuses on running the football. I am from the Nashville area, and the Ravens remind me a lot of the Tennessee Titans. The game plan is pretty simple. Run the football, wear down your opponent, play good defense. That spells success for Ray Rice. Ray Rice is a back to watch. I really like this guy. I like everything that's around him. I think he has really a lot of room for success. With the 5th pick, I would say Ryan Grant is what we're going to go with. He had a solid season last year. He averaged 4.4 yards per carry with 1,253 yards rushing. He averaged 78.3 yards per game and scored 11 touchdowns. Those are some pretty good fantasy numbers. One side of me wanted to go with Jamal Charles, but since Grant has the experience, he makes a better pick here. Jamal Charles averaged 5.9 yards per carry with 1,120 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. Grant had 193 more yards rushing and scored 4 more touchdowns and carried the ball 92 more times. Jamal Charles had some close numbers with Grant. Jamal Charles could be a running back to keep your eye on. By late summer, he could possibly find himself into the top 5 running backs. The only downside is that he has only done it one time. Grant has done it multiple times. Grant plays on a team with a little more talent around it. Jamal Charles does not. Second-year running backs are kind of risky. I took a gamble this last season with Chris Johnson. It paid off. But second-year running backs sometimes are not really good picks. Sometimes they really work out well, but most times they have kind of what they call the sophomore slump. So these are definitely 5 running backs you want to keep a check on and keep a watch. And this top 5 may change a little bit come draft time. Thanks for tuning in. Go to fantasyendzone.com for all your fantasy football needs.